He thought she knew nothing until she asked one question that changed everything. The room wasn't loud, but it wasn't quiet either. It carried a tension that felt unfinished, like something had already gone wrong, and everyone was just waiting to see how bad it would get. Sophia Bennett sat at the far end of the courtroom table, still, composed, invisible. At least, that's what everyone believed. Her hands rested lightly on a folder in front of her, closed, untouched, unimportant, or so it seemed. Across from her stood her business partner, Ethan Cole. Sharp suit, confident posture, voice steady with the kind of authority that doesn't come from truth, but from being believed. She has no involvement in the company's operations, Ethan said, addressing the judge. No strategic input, no financial contribution. She was never part of the decision-making process. Each word was deliberate, measured, practiced. Sophia didn't look up. She held a title, he continued. That's all. A name on paper, nothing more. I ask. A few people in the room nodded subtly, because the story made sense. A silent partner, a passive role, a decorative presence in a business built by someone else. Familiar, easy to accept, and that was the problem. People don't question what feels familiar. Sophia exhaled slowly, not visibly, not dramatically, just enough to center herself. Because this moment wasn't unexpected, it was inevitable. My client has single-handedly grown this company over the past 6 years, Ethan's lawyer added smoothly. Miss Bennett has failed to demonstrate any active contribution to its success. Failed. Again that word. Soft, but heavy, and dangerously persuasive. Sophia finally lifted her gaze. Not fully, just enough to observe. The judge, the lawyers, the spectators, everyone already forming conclusions, already deciding who she was, and more importantly, who she wasn't. Have you ever watched someone rewrite your story while you were still living inside it? Sophia had, for years, and Ethan had done it well, too well. She was never involved in negotiations. Ethan continued, never present in high-level discussions, never responsible for any key decisions. Each sentence reinforced the last, layer by layer, until the version of her he was presenting became easier to believe than the truth. Sophia almost smiled. Almost. Because the truth wasn't hidden. It was simply ignored. The judge leaned forward slightly. Miss Bennett, he said, you've heard the claims. Would you like to respond? The room shifted. Slightly. Attention redirected. Expectation rising. Sophia straightened just a little. Not dramatically. Just enough to signal something had changed. Yes, she said quietly. Then paused. Measured. Intentional. I would like to ask Mr. Cole a question. First. A flicker. There it was. Ethan didn't expect that. The judge considered briefly, then nodded. Proceed. Sophia turned her head slightly toward Ethan. Not confrontational, not emotional, just precise. Ethan, she said, do you remember the acquisition deal with Northbridge Holdings last year? He blinked, caught off guard. That's not relevant, he replied quickly. Dismissal. Immediate. Predictable. It is, she said calmly. And just like that, the air shifted. Because uncertainty had entered the room. And uncertainty demands attention. That deal, Sophia continued, prevented the company from going under. A pause. Everyone knew it. That acquisition had saved everything. It was my negotiation, Ethan said firmly. Confidence returning, but thinner now, less stable. Sophia tilted her head slightly. No, she said softly. You presented it. Silence. Ethan frowned. You're mistaken. Maybe, or maybe. He had never actually understood what had been happening behind him. Sophia opened the folder in front of her. Slowly, deliberately, she removed a single document, placed it on the table, then another, then several more. No rush, no drama, Just precision. What is this? His lawyer asked, stepping closer. Sophia didn't look at him. Documentation, she said. Ethan hesitated, just for a second. But that second was enough. Because hesitation reveals recognition before the mind is ready to accept it. For 6 years, Sophia said, I operated under a separate advisory identity. A ripple of confusion moved through the room. I structured deals, secured partnerships, designed risk mitigation strategies. Then she looked directly at Ethan. You executed them. The words landed slowly, heavy, unavoidable. That's impossible, he said. But his voice had changed. It wasn't certainty anymore. It was resistance. It's documented, she replied. The judge leaned forward, interest replacing neutrality. Mr. Cole, he said, are you aware of these claims? Ethan didn't answer immediately, because answering would require admitting something far more uncomfortable than being wrong. It would require admitting he had never been in control. Sophia continued, do you remember the regulatory crisis 2 years ago? His eyes shifted. He remembered. Of course he did. It nearly destroyed everything. The compliance strategy that resolved it, she said. A pause. That was mine. The courtroom went still. Not the earlier kind of silence. This one was different. Heavier. Sharper. Real. You told everyone it was handled internally, Sophia added. It wasn't. Now people were adjusting, recalculating, rewriting everything they thought they understood. And that process is never comfortable because it forces one question. What else did we get wrong? You said I had no role, Sophia continued. So let's clarify something. She leaned forward slightly, controlled, exact. I designed the system you relied on. Ethan grabbed the documents. Faster this time. Less controlled. He flipped through them, page after page. And with each page, something broke. Not visibly, not loudly, but undeniably. This doesn't make sense, he said. But it did. That was the problem. It was never meant to, Sophia replied. You weren't looking. The judge spoke again. Miss Bennett, why conceal your involvement? A fair question. Sophia nodded slightly. Because, she said calmly, visibility wasn't required. A pause. Results were silence, not empty, not passive, but reflective. What followed wasn't chaos. No shouting, no dramatic outbursts. Just process, verification, cross-checking, confirmation, every claim aligning, every assumption collapsing, until there was nothing left. But truth. The ruling came later, clear, decisive, final, but that wasn't the moment that mattered. The moment that mattered was quieter. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since the trial began. I didn't know, he said, and for a second, it sounded genuine. Sophia held his gaze. You didn't ask, she replied. She stood up, collected her documents, closed the folder. Everything precise. Finished. As she walked past him, he didn't stop her, because there was nothing left to argue. At the door, she paused. Not for him, for herself. Because moments like this don't just end something. They redefine everything. She turned slightly, just enough for her voice to reach him. You said I wasn't involved. A small pause. Now you understand the difference between being overlooked and being irrelevant. She walked out, calm, unshaken, unstoppable. And this time, no one misunderstood her. No one dismissed her. No one rewrote her story. Because now she owned it.